Testing. Hey YouTube. Hey Daryl, how's the audio? Hey Laura, hey Wet Sleeves, welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm not set with thanks Laura. I'm not set with any actual topic again today. I've just reached the point where I'm kind of dry on topics on what I should talk about. This is stream 88, and we pretty much tapped out my pet peeves and my given a topic in the conversation, I'm more than capable of rambling on for hours, obviously. But I go through my head and think about things to talk about, and Wet Sleeves Peru was awesome. It was incredible. I can't begin to explain. The pictures in the background are the pictures I took in Peru, or a lot of the pictures that I took in Peru. I've got a video called Pictures at an Exhibition, and that's basically what that video is just all of these pictures one after another. And I paired it with Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition, classical music. So that you can watch these very same pictures and have the opportunity to pause it. A lot of them are not focused well, as you guys are all aware. I'm still not up to speed as a photographer, but I still felt like I got a lot of shots that, while maybe boring in the sense that I took a lot of plant life shots because my wife loves plants and I wanted to bring her back a lot of photographs of the plant life that was there. There's a lot of habitat photographs that show, hey Joel, welcome to the stream, man, that show a lot of the habitats that we were catching fish in. Hey Justin, welcome to the stream. We are once again bereft of topic today. No axe to grind. No real. Wet Sleeves wants to know, what did we end up bringing back fish-wise? We caught in the neighborhood of 600 fish, and obviously, Wet Sleeves, you haven't followed the story, but basically what happened was our fish sat in the Lima airport for 3 days, and about 85% of them died. And so we got back about 10% of what we probably should have gotten back. I think normal loss is about 10%. Normally you will lose about 10% of fish because a lot of these fish are pretty fragile. They're going to die. A lot of them are going to die just simply by being crowded into a bag with others in a close proximity. A lot of them are just so fragile that they're not going to make it. There are panda tetras that we caught, and in a couple of the pictures of where we were catching them, you can see that the panda tetras were dying in the bucket before we ever got a chance to bag them up. So a lot of these fish are very, very delicate. They pretty much exist where they are, and they're not going to exist anywhere else. I don't know how you would go about catching those panda tetras other than maybe setting out bait and just catching them in a bucket, like putting a bucket in in the water and putting bait that the panda tetras love in the bottom of it and then lift the bucket out of the water, because I don't know how else you would catch them other than netting them like we did. And just netting them and putting them in the little buckets we were using to before we bagged fish up was enough to kill those. There's a couple of pictures where the little clear plastic buckets are showing, and if you'll notice, there are panda tetras floating dead on the surface of the water in those buckets. So a lot of these fish are pretty fragile, and stressing them in any way, shape, or form will kill them. The blues that we wanted to bring back so much that we caught like 150 of, they just died in droves. I think Dean ended up with 6 or 7 of them, and I think Joseph, pictured there, ended up with about a dozen of them. I told those guys, I told Dean that I wouldn't take those, but that I would take a bunch of the nigricinctus. We all wanted to take the nigricinctus. And the nigricinctus are called imperial tetras in the trade. If you look on Wet Spot's site, you will oftentimes find imperial tetras. Hey V-Stag, welcome to the stream, man. I really enjoyed seeing so much of you at AE, man. Hey Pam, welcome to the stream. How's everybody doing today? So I ended up with getting back after they got to Dean, and Dean kept them for a couple of days and kind of got the worst of them weeded out, the ones that were just fixing to die anyway. I got 2 of my cichlids, the Berhukinas, the mouth brooding, or not mouth brooding, earth-eating acaras. They're not really acaras, but they're kind of in the acara family. So I got 2 of those, the large one that was bullying all the others, and a very small one survived. Because there were so few fish coming to me, Dean sent me 7 of the CW109 cories. So I've got those 2 cichlids and the 7 cories in a 30 long, and then in my 55 that I repaired for this purpose, which I intended to have like over 100 tetras in, it has about 14 nigricinctus imperial tetras, and then there are 3 tetras that Dean and I have been talking back and forth about that I have not seen listed on the Go Wild Peru site. There is one that is very similar called the black spot tetra. They are blue. They look like a nigricinctus, but their body color is blue. They have the black line, the black belt running down the side of them. And in the pictures on Go Wild Peru site where it is described as a black spot, the spot comes after the line right at the tail. And these do not have that black spot. I don't know whether it's stress, or they're just not in the proper water and so they're not showing it, or whether these are completely different. And I have 3 of those. They're much larger. I'm showing that the stream is slowing down. Is the stream health still good for you guys? That's kind of weird to see that. 358. Stream's good. Okay, I'm showing it cycling on mine. Okay, good. So we don't really know what those fish are. Yeah, I've just got the circle spinning on mine, and it's it's locked. It's not moving, it's frozen. So we'll just have to let that go as it is, I suppose. We don't know what those are. We don't know what fish they are exactly. And we may never know. I guess we're just going to have to get lucky and breed more of them if we have indeed males and females. They seem to be slightly larger than the Imperials. They seem to, I'm feeding mine really well, so my Imperials have gotten fat and sassy, but those blue black belted tetras have gotten a great deal larger than the Imperials have, the Nigricinctus. I guess they're really just a blue Nigricinctus. They have the black belt. They just don't have any of the other markings. The Nigricinctus, the males have bright red in their in some of their paired and in their unpaired fins. They've got a lot of red in them. So they're kind of a greenish, darkish color, and then they have a very solid black belt. They very well could be a new species, let's leave. Actually, I could have 4 new species in the fish that I got. So anyway, I got 3 plecos, and Dean sent me one of the surviving green golds. But if you'll look in my videos, you will see that that green gold had so much blood markings around his throat, and that's usually a sign of ammonia poisoning. We had 36 total green gold ancestris plecos that we all fell in love with when we were catching them, and we all wanted them, and they all died. Basically, they all died. I think 4 survived, and Dean sent me one of those, and I kept it alive for about 3 days, and then it died. But it was huffing continuously. It had obviously had such bad gill burn that it wasn't going to be very happy even if it survived. Anytime a fish goes through that kind of situation where they're in a bag for several days with dead fish, the ammonia in the water is going to burn their gills and do irreparable harm. It will cause them to never be able to breathe properly. Now, the caveat is that you can eventually, if you can get a fish that has gill burn to survive, eventually it will grow enough new gill structure, potentially, that it can survive. So it's possible to revive and keep alive a fish that has had gill burn, but there is very little in the way of medication or treatment that I'm aware of anyway that will actually undo gill burn. The gills that are destroyed stay destroyed, but it is possible for a fish, if it lives long enough and it is in good enough conditions, to grow more gill structure in the sense of replacing that bad structure that's gotten burned. And anyway, that fish died. So I got 3 other plecos. I still have no idea what they are. They are not loricard. Well, I take that back. They are ancestris, so I guess they are loricards. But they're some kind of nondescript, kind of leopard pattern looking plecos, and I got 3 of them. 2 of them are larger and darker, and one is smaller and has more gray coloring to it. It has the same markings so far as I can tell. I will say there is one difference. The 2 darker ones have white tips on their dorsal fin and on their tail, and the smaller gray one has neither neither of those white markings. So pretty clear to me that I either got a female that is completely different looking than the males, or I've got two different species of Ancestris plecos that look very much the same. So I got 17, 20, 29 fish out of what I should have gotten in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 fish. Laura asked, did Go Wild Peru do anything for you because of what happened? Dean, all of us decided, Corey did not want to bring fish back because Corey felt like because he runs a business that does fish, that it might be some kind of conflict for him to bring fish back into the country. And I think he's since discovered, hey, Fish Tropic, welcome to the stream, man. I think he has since discovered that it is not a conflict of interest and that he can bring back those fish and either keep them himself or sell them in the store without any conflict of interest. But at the time, he did not want to bring back any at all. But we all decided, Joseph and myself and Corey, decided to let Dean be our point man. Dean had the paperwork. Dean was fighting the shipping. Dean was basically our point man on this whole thing. And besides a few instances where I made comments to Michael Barber, a couple of them by accident because I thought I was talking to Dean and was talking to Michael Barber, we let Dean handle this whole issue. And basically what it came down to was that Dean decided, Michael, there was very little that Michael could do other than just completely recatching and reshipping our fish to us. And that just wasn't going to happen. It's just too much money in the shipping and too much money in the actual travel to go catch the same fish. So Michael Barber contacted me after he talked to Dean and said, Dwayne, I am going to try to bring some fish back. I'm going in late November, and I am going to try to bring some fish back with me for you. Joseph had said originally that he did not want to take any fish at all because he did not. Hey, Cobweb Caverns, welcome to the stream. Joseph said that he did not want to bring fish because he was concerned about shipping them all the way to the islands, and that he also had concerns about taking fish out of the wild and keeping them in tanks. And in the end, Dean sent him a box with some of the apistos. We caught a lot of apistos, and I think Joseph got the blues, most of the blues that survived, which out of 160 or 170, I think about a dozen of them survived, and Joseph got maybe 7 of those, and I think Dean kept the ones that he felt like probably wouldn't make the shipping. So Joseph ended up getting some, but I think Joseph and Dean and Corey all felt like that if there couldn't really be any restitution done for us, that it would be okay for them because they're all planning to go again. And because of the money, I am not planning to go again. There's just no way I can afford it. This was my bucket list trip, and I had to save for 2 years. I mean, my wife and I are on fixed income, and it's really difficult to save enough money to do something like that. You know, I probably ended up with about $5,000 or a little more by the time of all the shipping and everything. In the trip itself, all the shots were outrageously expensive. So if you're going to do this trip, I would recommend that you really get out in front of it and figure out where you can get all the shots you need ahead of time in such a manner that you can get them done cheaply. There are places where you can get them done cheaply, but like the yellow fever shot, very few places actually have the yellow fever shot in, and you really need to work to get yourself set up. Yeah, and I took maybe 400 down there with me, and I didn't spend all of it, but I spent most of it. A lot of it went into separate meals and stuff like that. Yeah, Cobweb's Cavern says live in the UK, you get shots for foreign trips for free, and that's awesome. That's what single payer healthcare can do for you. Joel says, never a dollar wasted, though. My travel experiences have been well worth the expense, I think. If I could stand back and know what the experience was that I was going to have in Peru, I would have paid twice the price, gladly, because it was incredible. It was such an eye-opener for me. But getting back to answering that question, Michael Barber has told me that he is going to try to bring me some fish. He's not promising how many it will be. He's promising that it will only be local to Puerto Maldonado area. They're not going to take the 3-day trip up into the mountains to catch the gold greens, to replace those, which I was highly crestfallen, but I understand. I'm hoping Eric Bodrock or some of the other guys brought back a bunch of those gold greens and will breed them and have them on the market at some point. Or maybe the 3 or however many that Dean ended up with will survive and breed, and I can con him out of some. Those were the most remarkable fish that I have ever seen. And I have seen a ton of fish. And I do not know what it was that gave them that golden sheen. We took a lot of video of them, but it doesn't really show up. Cobweb Cavern serves me up a softball and says, without wanting to drag politics into things, I can never understand why the U.S. is happy to have a socialized police and fire service, but not a healthcare system. Yeah. How much time do you have, Cobwebs? I could wax poetic on that sentence alone for about 6 weeks. I could not agree with you more. I think it boils down to the idea. I think it boils down to the idea that some people do not believe that health care is a right, and those people tend to be doctors. And the people that have, let's be straight about this. Doctors and healthcare professionals spend a ton of money to get their degrees. They dedicate a huge chunk of their life to getting those degrees and the certifications they need to do the job they do. And without doubt, they deserve to charge the going rate to recoup those funds and to live a lifestyle that allows them to not stress over the fact that they're basically on 24/7. So let there be no misunderstanding that I believe that doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals are out there trying to gut us of our health care. They are not. They are the ones that provide the health care. But on the business side of things, they defend their right to overcharge viciously. And the corporations that are around doctors, insurance companies, the whole healthcare corporate side does not want there to be free healthcare because that's their money. Well, basically what sleeves, the idea is now don't get sick. Hey KG Cichlids, welcome to the stream, man. So anyway, to avoid political discussion, and by the way, my wife and I both went and voted this morning, and I cannot strongly enough stress that everyone, no matter where they live, no matter what their politics are, no matter what they believe, no matter how they feel, what their ideology is, you should get out and vote. Because it's only through voting that we as a people can express to those in governance how we want things to go. And it is critical in democratic countries, it is critical that we do our civic duty. To live in a democratic country is a right, is a privilege, not a right in the sense of we don't have to do anything for it, it's just given to us. We are required as voters to study the political situation around us, to take in as much information as we possibly can, to discern the truth about the issues that surround us. This goes back to the polis, P-O-L-I-S, and the polis was a part of society that was well informed about politics, about governance, that studied the issue carefully and made very careful choices about how they voted, about what they wanted their government to do. And the polis was a critical part to any kind of democracy, i.e., if there is no knowledgeable, well-informed citizenry to make well-informed choices. Hey, Joseph, welcome to the stream, man. You're getting to listen to me rant as delicately as possible as I can about democracy and what democracy means. It's critical that we as members of the citizenry are well informed in our voting and that we make choices that reflect the study that we have done. And I'll just leave it at that, that I want everyone to vote. I want everyone to know the subject well, and I want them to go out and vote their conscience, whether it agrees with mine or not. And I can accept the will of the people in that instance. But if someone is not going to be well informed, if they are going to go out of their way to not be well informed, i.e., listening to only the propaganda that's being spewed by their mouthpieces, then I wonder how we can have democracy anymore, because people are voting for propaganda and ideology and not the truth, and they need to search out the truth. Okay, so the way this stands with Michael Barber right now is that he is going to try to bring me back fish. And I don't know whether that means he's going to get 7 fish and put them in his luggage, or whether he is going to... One of the things that came out of this experience was that Go Wild Peru changed its shipper. They did away with Umberto and the shipping company that killed our fish, and they changed their shipper. Joel wants to know, did I chew on cocaine leaves to pep me up in Peru? There was actually a point up in the mountains where I made them leave me beside the road before they went the rest of the way up, where if I'd had some cocoa leaves, I would have probably chewed them. I also discovered that they make cocaine gummy bears, and that the candy is not illegal in the United States, and that you can actually bring back cocaine gummy bears. But I have really long hair, and I've got a beard that's down to my waist, and I'm pretty much a flaming liberal, so I did not want to give the people in customs and the people at the airports the chance to run me through their gauntlet because they found cocaine gummy bears in my luggage or cocaine leaves in my luggage. It just wasn't worth it. No, I wear Crocs, Joel. I wear Crocs with no socks. I love my Crocs. I think that's probably one of the best inventions that have come out in a long time. They're so comfortable and they last forever. Even someone like me that's really hard on shoes, I can wear a pair of Crocs for 4 or 5 years before they're worn down so badly that I have to throw them away. So Crocs are a liberal footwear, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, to look at me, I don't know how anyone would consider me other than a progressive liberal. And I make no attempt to either deny that or evade that. I am who I am. I'm old enough where I don't really give a shit about what people think, and I will say what it is that I have to say when I feel like I need to say it. I've never been shy about expressing myself, and frankly, we are in a time where expressing yourself is so pertinent. It could not possibly be more pertinent than in the time we are living now. You know, knock on wood, thank goodness I got to live through interesting times. These are very interesting times. I remember the 60s, and I remember the anti-war movements and the things that went along that. Lefty Croc footwear. Well, I don't know that it's lefty or not. I've known plenty of Republicans that wear them as well. So I don't know that Crocs are the domain of lefties. I think it's a footwear that's very comfortable and lasts a long time. So it's perfect for me. My goodness, you guys have given me 34 minutes worth of rant time on politics, something that I try very hard to avoid in this forum because I want people, there are a ton more Republican leaning people in this hobby than there are Democrats because this is an expensive hobby and Republicans generally tend to have more money than Democrats do. And that's a generalization in a lot of ways. So I would not be adverse to someone denying that to me. I would argue that case. Yeah, Pam, it really is. That's one of the very few benefits of living to an old age is being free to say what you think. Well, Pam, you're in a welcoming place then, because flaming liberal is what I am. Hey, Select Pet, welcome to the stream. You've dropped in on the flaming liberal rant channel by Dwain today, so I'm sorry if we're not covering fish as much as we should be. If anyone has a question that would give me something to talk about for another 30 minutes, I'd be more than happy. Joseph, since I got you on here, how are your fish doing? I've not really seen much from you in the way of talking about how the fish you got back from Peru. Aha, and Joseph, great minds think along similar lines. I lost the one green gold that I got, that Dean sent me, that was just blood red around its throat from gill burn. It lasted about 3 days and died. And I have lost one of the nigricincus that I got, my power head, or my wave maker, the pressure of the wave maker drove it under a crevice of a rock. And although I found it and got it out of there, it didn't survive. So I've lost at least one nigricincus and one pleco. Other than that, I have not lost any, knock on wood. I'm having to fight my sump system that I set up. I set up, yeah, pothos are great. You can take a pothos and stick it roots into the water. And Joseph says the Corys are doing great with the angels and lots of leaf litter, and his apistos are great. And the group of black belt tetras he got, nigricincus, imperial tetras as they are known in the trade. Joseph says his apistos are pairing off and ready to breed as well. Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear they're doing so well. They went a very roundabout route to get to you, but I'm glad they got there safely and are doing well. Joel's asking about cacti, which is an area that I have absolutely no experience with, and you'd be much better off talking to my wife about this subject than me. She is the botanist in the family. I just glom on and try to learn what I can about plants. I'm open to learning, but I just don't have a solid enough basis in plant physiology and plant I don't know. I'm just not well informed about plants enough to feel like that I'm actually doing something that I really understand. And Joseph is still talking about the Tidio tracks, and I'm mispronouncing that name badly, but I remember him saying that word and thinking, "What the heck is that? That doesn't ring any kind of bell in my fish memory at all." So you're talking to Michael about getting some of those. Joseph, is he talking about shipping them to you from Peru? You know, like they go out on another journey and he catches you some of those? The nano blue tetras. Ah, okay. I thought you got some of those. I thought you got like 6 or 7 of them or something. So you didn't get any of the nano blues. Well, then I'm mistaken about that because I thought you did. I told Dean that there were so few of them that I didn't really want to like try to split them up 3 ways, and so that I would just basically leave them to you or to Dean and you, or maybe Dean kept them all. But I knew there weren't many that survived. Oh, okay. So you nixed the idea of Dean sending you those. Well, I guess Dean must have the 6 or 7 that survived then. Those fish, I studied them quite a bit. Yes, I'm jealous of the potentiality of you going back and getting them. If you go back and I haven't gotten any green golds, I want green golds somehow. Now I was telling these guys that Michael has contacted me and said that he was going to try to bring me some fish back, but that I have no idea how many. I have no idea what he's planning on doing, whether he's going to bring 7 back in his luggage or whether he's going to try the new shipper and ship. Joel, not to worry, my friend. You railroad all you want. That's what we're here about. Ah, I remember you talking to Chris Lukup at AE. I'm desperately waiting for those interviews to come out, Joseph. I don't care how well edited they are. I just want them out there. I know you won't let them loose until you've edited them to a fare thee well, but just know that I'm waiting on those. So I don't know if I'm going to get fish or how many fish or what fish it might be, but I'm all for whatever Michael comes up with, and if it's possible to do it, and I am looking forward to, if it does indeed happen. What I wanted most of all was for Michael to acknowledge the failure in the system and to try to make amends. And that's all I wanted. Whether I get fish or I don't get fish, and is immaterial to me in the sense that I got some fish, but more than getting some fish, I got to go there and be there and go through that incredibly remarkable experience. And I was in no shape to do it. I'm physically not in shape to really go out there gangbusters and collect fish in the wild like I would have been if I'd gone when I was 17 or 21 or something like that, I would have been knocking Dean and Felix over to get to the fish before they did back then because of my physicality. But from a lifetime of being ridden hard and stabled wet and doing construction work my whole life and smoking and various other and sundry insults to my body and my health over the years, I'm just not in a position where I could actually go down there and be 100% as far as collecting went. But that wouldn't have stopped me for the world. There was no way I was not going to do it. There was no way I was not going to try to do as much as I could. Yep, a life of being ridden hard. I have been ridden hard and stabled wet my whole life. I've never lived in the lap of luxury, and all of that is relative. When I went down there to Peru and saw how those people were living, I've been living in the lap of luxury my entire life, experiencing white privilege and living a life of Raleigh compared to what those folks down there in Peru are living. They are living through poverty. But you know what? They don't really know much better than that poverty, and they really, on a whole, seem to be warm, gregarious, happy people. They're kind of reticent. They struck me as being shy and not outgoing in the sense of being boisterous or cantankerous or any of those things. But I dearly fell in love with the culture and the people of Peru. I mean, there was lots of things about it that I didn't like, but there was far more that I liked. And I felt like I made a very lifelong friend in Felix. We may never be in each other's company again, but it doesn't matter to me. I feel like Felix is salt of the earth, people that you could trust your life with if need be, and who I'd be willing to have him trust his life with me if need be. And that's just how I feel about the small amount of time that I got to be around Felix and understand him and recognize what kind of person he was and how hard he worked at everything he did and how knowledgeable he was. Michael Barber is a font of knowledge, but Felix was his own font of knowledge from knowing the local flora and fauna. There were many times when Michael Barber asked Felix what something was. That's true, Cobwebs. It's very much relative. Many of you may not know it, but I've studied Buddhism. Yeah, Felix really does know his stuff. I've studied Buddhism for many, many, many years. If there is any kind of spirituality I follow, it is Buddhism. And I was lucky enough to spend a great deal of time with a very powerful teacher, someone who is world renowned, someone who is highly recognized, someone that came straight from Tibet and pretty much had to be drug out of Tibet to make him come to the West and try to teach Westerners about Buddhism. And he explained to us that when he got on a plane in Tibet and knew that he was flying to the West, and he went to London first, was where he went, that as that plane was landing and the landscape and all of its buildings and glory spread out in front of him, that he honestly believed that he was landing in what Buddhism calls a pure land. Western Christianity would describe it as heaven, but that doesn't really encompass all that Pure Land encompasses. But Geshe felt like that when he was landing and getting out of that plane, that he was landing in a pure land, because he had come from such a destitute life and never known it, lived his entire life that life, and always felt like he had everything that everyone else had. And suddenly he came to the West and saw all of our glitz and glamour and thought, my gosh, this is a pure land. These people are living in heaven. And then he started talking to the people and realized how spiritually bereft the people were, how lost they feel, how miserable they feel, how terrible they feel inside, how badly they view their life. And it was astounding to him that all of those people in Tibet that have nothing are spiritually happy. They're pretty generally happy with what they have, what their lot in life is. And here he landed in heaven, and everyone was miserable. And that's kind of the situation with the people in Peru not recognizing what they don't have, but having something that we don't have, that we don't realize we don't have anymore, some spiritual, natural connection with the world around them that no longer exists in our quote pure land that we live in the urbanized West. We've given up as much as we've taken. So it's those people that live in Peru have just as much as we do. It's just that we don't see it as just as much. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting point, how shocked this little mountain of a Tibetan man was after landing in London and seeing the sprawling city and the bright lights and the glitz and the cars and the technology and the wonders of modern life, then juxtaposed it with how bereft the people were of spiritual happiness, how miserable they were made by all of the material things that they had. All right, guys, we're rounding up to the top of the hour. I hope Joel's got his cacti issue solved. Once again, you guys have given me the opportunity to rant on about nothing. Much ado of nothing. But I hope some of it has been useful to you. I hope a tiny portion of what I try to get across actually does get across to people before they're offended by my ideology or disturbed by my views. I hope that a little bit of how I feel, the passion I feel for this hobby, the passion I feel for the world we live in, for the natural world that we are surrounded by as much as possible in urbanized areas. I don't think there's another hobby that you can be in that dips his toe more deeply into science and I have not bred a single Cory of any type. I saw your question go by, but I was in the middle of a rant, and I have never bred Corys. I have kept a few Corys over the years, but I was always much more attracted to. Hey, Dean, how's it going, man? Um, Joseph's been in here too. We've pretty much gone through the situation with Go Wild Peru. If anybody does not know Dean's Fish Room, Dean is the Dean Tweedale of our Go Wild Peru trip. You're still alive. How are you? How is your health doing, Dean? I know you've gone through serious issues, and I hope you are doing better. My wish is that you are doing better. Michael is in Peru right now. Michael promised to try to bring me back fish. I don't know what bring back actually means, whether he's going to box them up and ship them through the new shipper and then ship them to me from his home, or whether he's going to try to smuggle 7 in his luggage and do it that way. I am so jealous of that group that's arriving to Go Wild Peru right now. They have the adventure of a lifetime ahead of them, and I wish them every good possible outcome. Dean, how many of the blues, the nano blue tetras, survived? I've been sitting here trying to give an accounting of what survived. I know you had a ton of Corys that survived, and it seems like your Epistos went well too. He met with the new shipper yesterday. It all sounds good as long as everyone agrees. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, I'm glad that our experience potentially helped out groups in the future so that they will not be faced with the misery that we were faced with. Cobwebs, there is no guarantee, absolutely none whatsoever. But I'd say that rainstorm that Dean and Joseph and Corey and Michael and I got caught in, coming back across the bank to get to Felix's parents' restaurant and home, was about as strong a thunderstorm as you're going to face in the wild. That was a deluge, and we were literally soaked. I had a pack of cigarettes in my top pocket, and I had them in a plastic bag, and I had them stuffed in my pocket and locked down, and I had my jacket. No, I didn't have a jacket, but I had my hat on, and I was trying to protect those cigarettes with my hat. Oh, Dean, we're talking about the Titty Chirax, or however you say that name. Ah, Dean's getting 200 of the nuts. Anyway, I don't think that rain nor shine would have stopped us for a minute. We went through rain and shine, and I can guarantee I didn't need those cigarettes, nor did you, Joseph. But I'm just trying to express how powerful that rainstorm was. That rainstorm was cutting through us like a hot knife through butter. It was powerful. It was pouring. And anybody that's seen that video will know that. So Rain wouldn't stop us. I mean, we'd probably try to get out of the rain, maybe get back in the van until it slacked back off again, but no, rain wouldn't stop us. Aha! Two of them are the black belt blues. Two of them had the black line. And I've got 3 of those, Dean. I've got 3 of the blue fish with the black line, the black belt. Yes, I'd love to have those too. Those fish are so different from most other tetras. Most tetras are egg scatterers. They do no parental care. They pretty much just cast their eggs into the ether, and let them go, and whatever happens, happens. Those fish, so you've got yet again another species that we thought were blues, but are something else too. Anyway, the Titiocharex, they actually, the female requires marginal plants that have leaves that are touching the water to lay their eggs on, and the female will hold the egg and its paired fins under its body and then turn upside down and plant them on that overhanging leaf, and that is how those eggs are laid, and that they only can be laid that way, or only will be laid that way. It has to be something that overhangs the water and dips into the water for them to lay it, so they require marginal plants to complete their breeding. And their breeding requirements are a lot different from any of the others. I was really looking forward to getting a bunch of those and trying to meet their requirements, but in the end there were so few of them left that I did not want to split them up, and that's why I said don't send those to me. Dean and Joseph, I hope you guys know how much of an honor and pleasure it was for me to have had the opportunity to spend time getting to know you guys, to developing a camaraderie with you guys, to learn from you, to enjoy your presence. I'm not sure if that ever really gets across properly. I've tried to express myself a lot. I try to say what it is that I feel. But I hope you guys, I mean, I may say stupid, monstrous things just in the heat of conversation, or because I'm feeling so overtly passionate about something, but nothing that I ever say should ever detract from the respect I feel for you guys, from how I value your friendship and how important you became for me when I got a chance to get to know you two. And I highly respect both of you. And of course, that goes for Corey too, but Corey's not in here for me to glom onto. So Dean, you and I have had a lot of conversations back and forth about this whole mishap with the shipping. And I just want you to know how much I respect you and how much I value your friendship, so that you understand that anything that I might say in the heat of battle or the heat of contention would never affect how I feel about you, or never change the respect that I have. And that goes for everybody that was involved. I have just as much respect for Michael Barber. I have just as much respect for Felix. I, I, I felt like we, it was a real kismet kind of situation for me. And I felt like we were in the company of like-minded, highly valued people. And I just want you guys to know that. I hope that's come across in my talks and my videos and that kind of stuff and with our interactions. But please know that that is the truth. All right, guys. We've drug ourselves 5 minutes over the hour, and I am wanting to go, so I will shut this down. I apologize to those that come here. I love that picture, Dean. That picture of you guys glommed onto me like, is he going to be dead when we get back? And believe me, I couldn't have told you one way or the other. I mean, I think that's why I stopped where I did, was because I didn't know if I was going to make it, if I went up much higher. I literally was hurting to breathe. It really was. That's a scary feeling when you can't get oxygen in anymore. And I appreciate how all you guys reacted and how Michael went up there and bought my wife's yarn for her, and what a great job he did of getting such a great deal on all that yarn. I really enjoyed that moment because I was basically sitting there in shirt sleeves and my pants up close to 10,000 foot in the mountains, in the Andes. And believe me, I got quite a few very shocked looks from the few people that did drive by. And it was very pleasant. It was an incredible view. If I had had to check out right then, which was always a possibility, I would have died happy because of the view and where I was and the situation I was in. But I think that extra altitude pill you gave me and not going any further helped me. And by just sitting there and doing my deep breathing meditation, I finally got to a point where I was no longer feeling like I was going to die at any second, and that I was going to make it as long as I could get back in that van going down again where the breathing got easier. All right, guys, on that squirrely note, I'm going to close us out. Dean, I'm so happy you visited. Joseph, as always, my friend, so happy. Joseph, get those damn interviews out. I'm waiting, brother. I'm waiting, my brother. Okay, guys, have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Good luck with your fish. And I hope, once again, that some little part of this has been valuable to you. It's time to leave you.